Let me tell you about a conversation that happened millions of times in the past few weeks. Someone installs OpenClaw or Mold or whatever we are calling it this week. By copying 3 lines of code from a YouTube tutorial, they paste it into their terminal, it works, magic. They are now running their own AI assistant that can interact with their systems, their files and their databases. 2 days later, security researchers reveal that Shodan has indexed millions of exposed API keys. Millions. Because nobody read the documentation. Nobody implemented the basic security measures that were right there in the manual. Everyone was too busy being first, being fast, being productive. And now we have congressional hearings about how dangerous AI is, how we need regulation, how this technology threatens everything. Here's what I find fascinating. The same people calling for AI regulation because it is too risky are the ones who installed it without reading past line 3 of the setup guide. Welcome to Iconoclast Insights. I'm Andre Daus, and today we're talking about something that has nothing to do with AI and everything to do with how we lie to ourselves about risk. Before we had AI panic, we had privacy panic. And we still do. Facebook is stealing our data. Google knows too much. We need GDPR. We need stronger privacy laws. Fair enough. Privacy matters. So we passed laws. We added consent banners. We created compliance frameworks. And then what did people do? They posted their breakfast on Instagram. They shared their location on Facebook. They upload their DNA to ancestry websites. They accepted every cookie banner without reading a single word because clicking accept all is faster than clicking reject all. Yes, that's still the case. The hypocrisy is obvious, but that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is this. When we call for privacy protection, we are not actually asking for privacy. We are asking for consequence-free convenience. We want the benefits of sharing everything, the connection, the validation, the algorithmic recommendations, without the risks of sharing everything. We want someone else to manage the trade-off we are unwilling to make ourselves. I had a conversation recently about web server security, and someone said, "Just use Cloudflare Pro and you are done." No. You are not done. Cloudflare Pro is excellent for what it does. But if you think checking that box solves security, you've just performed security theater. You've created the feeling of safety without actually thinking about what you are protecting, who you are protecting it from, or what happens when Cloudflare isn't enough. Someone else told me they handle compliance by adding one more checkbox for users to sign, just to be safe, just to cover ourselves legally, you know? Except they never considered that in German contract law, if you make privacy policy acceptance part of the sign-up flow, it can become part of the contractual relationship, which means you can change your privacy policy without giving users special cancellation rights under AGB-Recht. Terms and Conditions law. One checkbox to feel safe created 3 new legal exposures they never thought about. This is the pattern. Act first, feel safe. Discover later that you never thought through what safe actually means. Now, there's a common narrative that goes like this. Europeans are risk-averse. They see danger everywhere. They regulate everything. Americans are risk-tolerant. They see opportunity. They move fast and break things. And there's some truth to it. Risk appetite does tend to rise as you move from east to west. Cultural differences matter. But this narrative is also lazy because it lets us off the hook. It lets Europeans blame Americans for being reckless. It lets Americans dismiss Europeans as bureaucratic cowards. It turns risk assessments into identity politics. But the reality? We have both kinds of people everywhere. Risk-averse Americans who want to regulate AI into submission. Risk-hungry Europeans building the next generation of fintech without asking permission. The line isn't geographical, it's psychological. And the real divide isn't between the risk takers and the risk avoiders. It's between people who think before they choose and people who act before they think. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Most people don't actually know whether they are taking a risk or avoiding one. They think they know. They will tell you with absolute certainty whether something is too risky or full of opportunity. But if you watch what they do instead of listening to what they say, you will see something different. They will tell you AI is dangerous while running AI tools with default configurations. They will tell you privacy matters while posting their lives online. They will tell you security is critical while clicking yes to every permission request because reading is slow. They will tell you compliance is essential while adding checkboxes they don't really understand. And they will tell you they are being careful while copying code they haven't reviewed. The question isn't whether we are risk-averse or risk-hungry. The question is whether we are honest about which risks we are actually taking. Moving forward requires risk. Always has, always will. If you are too risk-averse, you slow everything down. You create bureaucracy that protects nothing and prevents everything. You demand proof of safety before anyone's allowed to try. If you move too fast, you break things. You expose API keys, you create security vulnerabilities, you build systems that work until they spectacularly don't. The solution isn't to pick a side in this false binary. The solution is to think first. Think about what you're trying to achieve. Think about what could go wrong. Think about whether the risk is worth the opportunity. Then decide, consciously and deliberately. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. That decision is work, real work, the kind that can't be outsourced to a compliance checkbox or a Cloudflare subscription or a congressional hearing. It requires you to understand what you are building, what you are protecting, what you are afraid of, what you are hoping for. Most people skip this part. They act first, then they rationalize. I installed it because I needed to stay competitive. I accepted the terms because everyone else did. I added the checkbox because legal told me to. I clicked yes because the pop-up was annoying. These aren't decisions. These are excuses dressed up as strategy. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. Do you actually know what you are afraid of? Not what you say you are afraid of, not what sounds reasonable in a meeting, not what fits the narrative of your tribe, whether that's the move fast tribe or the stay safe tribe. What are you actually afraid of? And how do you know your actions match your answer? Because here's what I see. People who claim to fear AI risk while running unpatched systems. People who claim to value privacy while feeding every algorithm their personal data. People who claim to prioritize security while treating it as a checkbox exercise. The fear isn't driving the behavior. The fear is justifying it after the fact. And if you don't know what you're afraid of, really know it, then you can't possibly know whether you're managing risk or just performing risk management. You can't know if you're being cautious or just slow. You can't know if you're being bold or just reckless. You can't know if you're making a choice or just making excuses. So here's where I'm going to leave you today. If you stopped performing your risk posture and started examining it, if you looked at what you actually do instead of what you say you value? Would you recognize yourself? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, what does that tell you about the risks you are really taking? Think about it, and see you next week.